Assalamu alaikum. This is Fatima, clinical psychologist, and Amira, who deals with inner child work. Welcome to the Emotional Evolution podcast, where we focus on our own emotional evolution because when we change, life around us changes. So, we're dealing with part two of how to deal with emotionally insensitive people. And I wanted to address the aspect of how do we manage our own emotions when somebody is discounting, invalidating our emotions and saying, oh, you shouldn't feel this way, or that's not what I meant, or, basically reacting, and we're starting to feel worse. So I think going back to part one, having an understanding of their background and knowing that they're actually not going to get how this is impacting me. And sometimes they don't actually even want to make the effort to get it or understand it because they're feeling quite defensive. So, and they sometimes, they won't have any hesitation on, wanting to understand, and they'll just get argumentative. So, step one, identify that, that understand that they're not going to get how this is going to be impacting me. The second step is actually acknowledging that, because like acknowledging for ourselves that when they're talking to me in this way, I'm starting to feel upset, hurt. So just that self acknowledgement and validation rather than shutting ourselves off and being like, no, I'm feeling fine, it's okay. And the reason why we say this acknowledgement step is so important is so that we don't later on start blaming people and saying, you made me feel this way, or we start pushing away that feeling and it comes out sideways. So noticing and observing what they're saying and how it's making me feel, I think it's a very crucial step in being able to calm ourselves, acknowledge ourselves, calm ourselves. And to do that, even if it requires a little bit of time and space where we might go get a sip of water, grab a tissue, get a bit of fresh air, I think that's important before coming back. And then I guess these are some basic steps that in that moment on how we can acknowledge ourselves, and then coming to the I statement, like I know that you didn't, you may have not meant to sort of articulate it in this way, or this was not your intention. However, I ended up feeling, upset and hurt, and this is sort of what I would appreciate instead. So sort of basically allowing them, showing empathy and understanding for their position so they don't get into that defense, and then also being able to say how it made us feel and what we would like instead. And the fourth part of it is that praise or that reinforcement that, I really appreciate you taking out the time to listen to me, or, I wanted to have an open relationship, so I'm not constantly feeling this way and I want to move forward. I think that's also a key part in keeping relationships alive. We both need like good, positive feedback and reinforcement of why these conversations are important so they can understand what's important to you.
Yeah, I just wanted to highlight how important it is to acknowledge when you're feeling like that powerless feeling or unheard or unseen. Because as a human, we actually have a massive need. It's an actual and emotional need to be seen and heard, and understood in our position. So usually when people are dismissing your position and saying that didn't happen, no, it didn't, it wasn't that way. A better way of saying that is, I understand that you're feeling this way and I'm sorry you're feeling this way. My intention when I was saying this or that was this. So that's a healthy way of doing it. So let's say Fatima misunderstood something. I've said a healthy way of her to convey of a healthy way she can convey that to me is saying, Amira, I assume that you perhaps didn't realize this. However, when you said that, I ended up feeling a little bit like this. And I just thought to mention it to you. And I'd probably say, if I was being emotionally sensitive, I'd say, oh, I'm so sorry that made you feel that way. Or I did actually say it that way. In all honesty, what I was actually feeling or what my intention was this. So often when people do say insensitive things, most of the time, I mean, I'd like to believe that they didn't mean it. It was an accident. It was a slip up. I think where it can all go pear-shaped is if people don't take any ownership and they get very defensive. So if they say, I didn't mean it, and they start blaming you for bringing it up, that is quite difficult to deal with. Um, and that's where accepting the limitations of how much that person can hear it. What's even worse is if they kind of ridicule you about it. So they don't even try to understand. They don't think they did anything wrong. Then that's a position where you just need to put the boundaries down,
Yeah.
and you need to maybe have some time limits just so you can feel like okay in that environment. And for some people, they are okay. And for some people, it feels completely not okay. So just assessing, like, where am I at? Is it something that I really care about? Perhaps I don't care about it. And accordingly, putting a boundary down. And that boundary might just look like, let's say that person's in the living room. Perhaps you go into the kitchen and you start doing something else in the kitchen, or occupying yourself in another kind of crowd, so you're not alone with that person, and it doesn't start something else, if that makes any sense. So I hope that this was useful to you in terms of dealing with insensitive comments. And if you're finding this useful, please like, share, and subscribe. And inshallah, we will keep bringing you hopefully better and better content. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum.